Captain Han Jiwoo stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Taewang, watching the massive space station grow larger against the backdrop of distant stars. The station was called Epsilon 7, and it looked like a giant metal wheel spinning slowly in the darkness. This was supposed to be a simple inspection tour, nothing more than shaking hands and checking boxes, but something felt wrong. Jiwoo had learned to trust his instincts during his 14 years in Earth Space Command. "We're cleared for docking, Captain," said Lieutenant Kang Do-hyun from his station. The young security officer was 27, but he carried himself like a veteran. His hand never strayed far from his weapon even during peaceful missions. "Take us in slowly," Jiwoo ordered. "Dr. Park, are you ready?" Dr. Park Minji looked up from her scientific scanner. At 29, she was one of Earth's best xenobiologists. She specialized in understanding alien cultures and biology. Her job today was to observe and record everything about the station's research programs. "Ready, Captain? My equipment is functioning normally." The Taewang docked with a soft metallic clang. Jiwoo straightened his uniform and headed to the airlock. Do-hyun followed close behind, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. Minji gathered her equipment and joined them. The airlock opened with a hiss. On the other side stood 3 aliens. The center one was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and too many joints in its arms. This was Quarren, the station director. He represented the Galactic Coalition, the massive government that ruled most of known space. Humans had joined the coalition only 5 years ago, and they were still treated like children at the adult table. "Welcome to Epsilon 7, Quarren said in a voice that sounded like wind through metal pipes. "We are pleased to host Earth's inspection team." Jiwoo forced a smile. "Thank you for having us. We're here to observe your research programs as agreed in the diplomatic protocols." Of course, Quarren gestured with 2 of his 4 arms. "Please follow me. We have prepared a comprehensive tour." They walked through corridors filled with aliens of dozens of species. Some had fur, others had scales. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. The Galactic Coalition contained thousands of member species, and humans were among the newest and least respected. The tour started in the Botanical Research Wing. Scientists were studying plants from various worlds. Then they visited the Medical Research section, where doctors worked on cures for diseases. Everything seemed normal and proper. Minji took notes and scanned everything with her equipment. After 2 hours, they reached a sealed door marked with symbols Jiwoo didn't recognize. "What's beyond this door?" he asked. Quarren hesitated. "That section is restricted. It contains sensitive behavioral research, not part of your approved tour." Minji's scanner suddenly beeped. She looked at the display and her face went pale. "Captain, I'm detecting human biosignatures behind that door. Multiple signatures. Young humans." Jiwoo felt ice form in his stomach. "Young humans? Children?" "I believe so, based on the biological readings," Minji said quietly. Jiwoo turned to Quarren. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. "Director Quarren, I need to see what's behind that door. Right now." "That's not possible. The research is classified and—" Do-hyun stepped forward, his hand moving to his weapon. "Open the door." Quarren's skin changed to a darker shade of blue. He was clearly nervous. "This is most irregular. I must consult with—" "Open the door now or we will open it ourselves," Jiwoo said. Each word was sharp and clear. "If there are human children behind that door, you have exactly 10 seconds to explain why before this becomes an incident." Quarren made a sound like grinding metal. It might have been a sigh. He pressed his hand against a panel and the door slid open. "Very well, but you must understand. Everything here is legally sanctioned by coalition law." They walked into a long corridor lined with transparent cells. Inside each cell was a human child. Jiwoo counted 12 cells. 12 children. The youngest looked about 6 years old. The oldest might have been 14. They all wore gray jumpsuits. They all looked thin and tired. When they saw humans, their faces lit up with desperate hope. Minji dropped her scanner. The sound of it hitting the floor was very loud in the sudden silence. "Oh my God," she whispered. A small girl in the 3rd cell pressed her hands against the transparent wall. "Are you from Earth? Please, are you here to take us home?" Jiwoo felt something break inside his chest. He had a daughter back on Earth. She was 8 years old. These children could have been her classmates. He walked slowly to the cell, placing his hand against the wall opposite the girl's hand. "Yes, sweetheart. We're from Earth. What's your name?" Lihana, the girl said. Tears ran down her face. They took me from the colony on New Sol. That was 217 days ago. I counted. 217 days, Jiwoo repeated. His voice sounded strange even to himself. He turned to look at Quarren. You've kept human children in cages for 7 months? Another alien stepped forward. This one had 4 arms and a body like a giant insect. Its face had too many eyes. I am researcher Thexlar. These subjects are part of important behavioral studies. Humans are a fascinating species. We are learning much about your kind. Do-hyun made a sound like a growl. His weapon was in his hand now. They're not subjects. They're children. They are valuable research assets, Thexlar said, as if explaining something obvious. We are studying human development, stress responses, and social adaptation. The data we gather will help the Coalition understand your species better. Jiwoo walked toward Thexlar. Do-hyun moved to intercept him, but Jiwoo waved him back. He stopped 1 meter from the alien researcher. When he spoke, his voice was quiet and very, very dangerous. You took children from their families. You put them in cages. You ran experiments on them. Do you understand what you've done? I have conducted proper scientific research, Thexlar said. All protocols were followed. The Galactic Coalition approved this project 9 months ago. The Coalition approved this? Minji asked. She had picked up her scanner and was checking each child, her hands shaking. Earth filed complaints about missing children from the colony worlds. We sent requests for help finding them. You're telling me the Coalition knew they were here? Quarren stepped forward. Your complaints were reviewed. The research was deemed more valuable than your emotional concerns. Humans are new to the Coalition. You don't understand how things work yet. Sometimes individual needs must be sacrificed for greater knowledge. Jiwoo turned to look at all 12 children. They stared back at him with eyes that had seen too much. Hana pressed both hands against her cell wall. Another boy in the next cell was younger, maybe 7. He wasn't crying. He just looked empty, like someone had turned off a light inside him. Lieutenant Do-hyun, Jiwoo said calmly. Send a coded message to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them we found the children. Tell them everything. Use the emergency frequency. Captain, if we send that message, it will be considered a hostile act, Quarren warned. You'll violate diplomatic protocol. Earth could be sanctioned. Jiwoo looked at the station director. Send the message, Lieutenant. Yes, sir, Do-hyun said. His fingers flew over his communication device. Jiwoo walked back to Hana's cell. Sweetheart, what's your father's name? Cho Junho, she said. He's an engineer. My mom is Park Salmon. She's a teacher. Do they know where I am? Do they know I'm alive? They will soon, Jiwoo promised. Dr. Park, I need you to stay here with the children. Check their health. Talk to them. Learn everything you can about what's been done to them. Of course, Minji said. She was already kneeling by Hana's cell, speaking softly to the girl. Jiwoo turned to Quarren and Thexlar. You both need to understand something. You've made a terrible mistake. Humans have a saying. You never ever hurt our children. You crossed a line that should never be crossed. Are you threatening us? Quarren asked. Earth is one small planet. The Coalition has thousands of worlds, millions of ships. You have no power here. We'll see about that, Jiwoo said. Message sent, Captain, Do-hyun reported. Earth Command acknowledged. They said help is coming. Jiwoo nodded. He looked one more time at the 12 children in their cells. Hang on, he told them. Whatever happens next, Earth will not leave you here. I promise you that, Hana nodded. Some of the other children started crying. But these were different tears. These were tears of hope. Jiwoo walked out of the corridor, his mind already racing through plans and possibilities. Behind him, he heard Minji singing softly to the children. It was a Korean lullaby, one his own mother had sung to him long ago. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson about humanity. There were lines you didn't cross. And imprisoning human children was the brightest, reddest line of all. 8 hours after Jiwoo sent his message, the entire human delegation was confined to their ship. Quarren called it protective custody for their own safety. Jiwoo called it what it was, imprisonment. But he didn't fight it, not yet. He needed time for his message to reach Earth and for Earth to respond. Minji had refused to leave the children. She was still in the research wing sitting outside the cells. The aliens had allowed this, probably because they didn't see her as a threat. They were wrong about that. Dr. Park Minji might not carry weapons, but her scanner and her mind were recording every detail. Evidence that would burn through the galaxy like fire. Captain, incoming transmission, Do-hyun said. It's encrypted military channel. Code signature is Commander Baek Sora, 3rd Fleet. Ji-woo felt hope surge in his chest. Sora was a legend in Earth's Space Command. She had fought in the border wars against pirates. She had never lost a ship under her command. And most importantly, she had 3 children of her own. Put her through. The view screen flickered. Commander Baek Sora appeared. She was 41 with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She wore the uniform of an admiral, even though everyone still called her commander out of habit. Behind her, Ji-woo could see the bridge of her flagship, the Seoul. Captain Han, Sora said. Her voice was controlled, but Ji-woo could hear the fury underneath it. I received your message, all of it. The evidence Dr. Park transmitted. The biological scans, everything. Commander, the Coalition approved this. They knew about the children. They've been here for months and Earth's complaints were ignored. Sora's jaw tightened. I've been authorized by Earth Command to bring the 3rd Fleet to your position. We're already moving. 47 ships. We'll be there in 36 hours. Commander, that could start a war. Let it, Sora said flatly. But it won't. The Coalition is big and old and comfortable. They think we're still scared newcomers who will accept whatever they tell us. They're about to learn different. How are the children? Dr. Park is with them now. I'll have her report directly to you. Good. Captain Han, you did the right thing. Keep those children safe. Keep Dr. Park safe. And if anyone tries to move them or harm them, you have permission to do whatever is necessary. Whatever is necessary. Do you understand? Yes, Commander, perfectly. 3rd Fleet will be there soon. Sora out. The screen went dark. Do-hyun let out a long breath. 47 warships. She's bringing almost the entire fleet. She's bringing enough force to make the Coalition think twice, Ji-woo said. Now we wait. Meanwhile, in the research wing, Minji sat cross-legged on the floor outside Hana's cell. The little girl was talking and Minji was recording every word. They came at night, Hana said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. To the colony on New Seoul. They said they were Coalition officials doing a population survey. My parents believed them. Why wouldn't they? We were part of the Coalition. We were supposed to be safe. How many of them were there? Minji asked gently. 4, all Velthir, like Thexler. They had these devices that made a humming sound. Then I couldn't move. I could see and hear everything, but my body wouldn't work. They carried us to their ship. 12 of us from different families. The youngest is Jun. He's only 6. Minji looked down the corridor at the smallest child. Jun was curled up in his cell, hugging himself. What happened when you got here? Tests, Hana said. The word came out like poison. So many tests. They put us in different situations to see how we'd react. Sometimes they'd take away our food to see how long we'd stay calm. Sometimes they'd put us in rooms that were too hot or too cold. They'd separate us for days, then put us together to watch how we interacted. They recorded everything. Did they hurt you? Physically? Not like hitting or cutting. But it hurt anyway. The worst was the fear test. They'd make us think something terrible was about to happen. Then watch how we responded. They measured our heartbeats and breathing and brain waves. Jun wet himself during one of the tests. He was so ashamed. He's only 6 years old. Minji felt tears burning in her eyes, but she kept her voice calm. You're very brave, Hana, all of you are. I'm not brave. I'm angry. Hana pressed closer to the transparent wall. Dr. Park, are they really coming, Earth? Or is this another test to see how we react to hope? They're really coming. In 36 hours, there will be 47 Earthships surrounding this station. And we're taking you home. Hana started crying. It was the first time she'd cried since the humans arrived. I want my mom. I want my dad. I miss them so much. I know, sweetheart. They miss you too. Your father's name is Cho Junho, right? The engineer? Yes, how did you know? Captain Han asked you. I'm going to look him up. I'm going to send him a message that you're alive and we found you. Would you like that? Yes, please. Minji pulled up her datapad and connected to Earth's communication network. It took a few minutes to find Cho Junho in the colony records. She composed a simple message. This is Dr. Park Minji of Earth Space Command. We have found your daughter Hana. She is alive. We are bringing her home. She attached a recent image of Hana from her scanner. She sent similar messages to all 12 families. Some of them would be sleeping now. They would wake up to the greatest news of their lives. An alarm suddenly blared through the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor. Thexler came running, his forearms waving frantically. What did you do? What did you tell Earth? The truth, Minji said calmly. Every detail of what you did to these children. You've ruined years of research. The Coalition will be furious. Good, Minji said. She stood up, and even though she was half Thexelar's size, her voice made him step back. You should be terrified. Do you know what's coming? Do you understand what you've started? Empty threats. Humans are weak. Your military is tiny compared to the Coalition forces. We might be weak by your standards, Minji said, but you made one fatal mistake. You hurt our children. There's nothing a human won't do to protect their children. Nothing. Another voice came from behind Thexelar. Is that true? It was a different alien. One Minji hadn't seen before. This one looked almost human, except for golden skin and 3 fingers on each hand. I am Counselor Ven. I represent the Diplomatic Corps. I've been listening to the children's testimony. Dr. Park, I want you to know that not all Coalition species approve of this research. Then where were you when Earth filed complaints? Minji demanded. Ignored like your complaints. The Coalition is vast. Many voices get lost. But your voice is about to become very loud, isn't it? 47 ships. That's more than a rescue mission. That's a declaration. A declaration of what? That humanity will not be ignored anymore. That you're willing to fight the entire galaxy if necessary. For children. Ven looked at the cells, at the 12 small faces watching this conversation. My species has young ones too. If someone did this to them, we would burn stars to get them back. Perhaps humans and my people are not so different. What species are you? Minji asked. Rillian. We've been Coalition members for 3,000 years. And I will be filing my own report about what I've seen here. The Coalition needs to know that this research program violated the spirit of our laws even if it technically followed the letter. Thexelar made a hissing sound. Traitor. You betray the Coalition's interest for these primitive... Finish that sentence and see what happens, Minji said quietly. Her hand moved to a small device on her belt. It wasn't a weapon. It was just a sample collection tool. But Thexler didn't know that. The alien researcher backed away. This isn't over. The High Council will decide what happens to these subjects. They're not subjects, Hana called out from her cell. We're people. We have names. I'm Lee Hana, that's Kim Jun. Next to him is Park Nari. We're not things you can study. We're children, and our families love us, and Earth is coming to get us. Other children started calling out their names. I'm Choi Minho. I'm Song Han. I'm Yoon Dae-hyun. Their voices echoed through the corridor, a chorus of defiance. Thexelar fled. Ven watched him go, then turned back to Minji. Doctor, when your ships arrive, there will be a confrontation. The Coalition will not simply hand over the children. There will be threats, possibly violence. Are your people prepared for that? Are you asking if we'll back down? I'm asking if you're truly willing to risk war for 12 children. Minji looked at Hana, at Jun, at all the small faces pressed against their cells. She thought about her own childhood, about the safety and love she'd known. These children had been robbed of that. They'd been turned into experiments. They'd been taught that the galaxy didn't care about them. Counselor Ven, let me tell you something about humans. We have a history of fighting impossible odds. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and famines. We've climbed out of caves and reached the stars. And through all of that, one thing has remained constant. We protect our children. All of them. Always. So yes, we're willing to risk war. We're willing to risk everything. Then the galaxy's about to change, Ven said softly, because the Coalition has forgotten what it means to have lines that cannot be crossed. You're about to remind them. Back on the Taiwan, Jiwoo received a message from his engineer, Cho Minho. Captain, I've been scanning the station's design. There's a weakness in the power distribution system. Earth's Third Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a precision that made the Coalition observers gasp. 47 warships appeared in perfect formation, surrounding Station Epsilon 7 like predators circling prey. At the center, Commander Baksora's flagship Sol hung in space like a steel promise. Jiwoo watched from the Taewang's bridge as Coalition ships scrambled to respond. There were only 12 Coalition vessels nearby, and they were science ships, not warships. Within minutes, they were completely outgunned. Captain Han, this is Commander Sora. The communication came through. Status of the children? Still imprisoned in the research wing. Dr. Park is with them. They're frightened but unharmed. The station director has refused to release them. Copy that. Stand by. Sora opened a wideband transmission that every ship and every station in the sector could hear. Her voice was calm, clear, and absolutely terrifying in its control. This is Commander Bayek Sora of Earth's 3rd Fleet to Station Epsilon 7. You are holding 12 human children against their will. You have subjected them to unauthorized experimentation and psychological torture. You have 45 minutes to release all 12 children to our custody. If you do not comply, we will take corrective action. Director Corrin's response came quickly. His voice was shaking. Commander Sora, this is an act of war. You cannot threaten a coalition facility. The research was legally authorized. You have no authority here. I have all the authority I need, Sora replied. Those are human children. Earth's children. That gives me all the authority in the universe. 44 minutes. Another voice broke into the transmission. Commander Sora, this is Ambassador Yoon Jae-min from Earth's diplomatic service. The ambassador sounded tired and worried. He was 56, a career diplomat who had spent his life building relationships in the galaxy. Please stand down. We can negotiate this through proper channels. If you attack a coalition station, Earth will be expelled from the Galactic Coalition. We could face economic sanctions, military retaliation. This could mean war. Then it means war, Sora said simply. Ambassador, with respect, I don't answer to you. I answer to Earth Command, and Earth Command has given me clear orders. Get those children back, whatever it takes. Commander, please. 43 minutes, Ambassador. If you want to help, convince the station director to release the children. Jiwoo listened to this exchange with grim satisfaction. He had served under Sora during the border wars. He knew how she thought. She wasn't bluffing. If the children weren't released, she would attack, and nothing in the galaxy would stop her. On the station, panic was spreading. Minji watched as Velthier researchers ran through the corridors, trying to secure their data and experiments. Thexler appeared with a squad of security forces. They were insectoid creatures carrying energy weapons. Dr. Park, you need to move away from the cells, Thexlar said. No, Minji replied. That wasn't a request. Our military is coming. There will be a battle. You could be hurt. Then release the children and there won't be a battle. Thexlar made a clicking sound of frustration. You don't understand coalition politics. If we surrender to human threats, every minor species will think they can challenge us. We have to make a stand. The children are leverage. If your ships attack, we'll move them to a secure location where you'll never find them. Hana pressed against her cell wall. You're going to use us as shields. I'm going to ensure that reasonable beings prevail over emotional ones, Thexlar said. Minji stepped between the researcher and the cells. You're not moving these children anywhere. The security forces raised their weapons. Minji didn't move. She just stood there, one human woman facing 6 armed aliens. Her hand touched her communication device. Captain Han, they're threatening to relocate the children. I need help. Jiwoo's response was immediate. Do-hyun with me. Minho, you're in command. If we're not back in 30 minutes, tell Commander Sora to proceed. Captain, you'll be arrested, Minho protested. Probably. Move. Jiwoo and Do-hyun left the ship at a run. The station's security tried to stop them, but they had weapons and they had determination. More importantly, they had trained for exactly this kind of situation. Do-hyun disabled 3 guards with precise shots set to stun. Jiwoo knocked another one unconscious with a blow that came from years of combat training. They reached the research wing in 4 minutes. The Velthier security forces turned to face them. For a moment, everyone stood frozen. 12 armed aliens, 2 armed humans, 1 unarmed human scientist, 12 frightened children. Gentlemen, Jiwoo said calmly, you have 2 choices. Stand down and let us take the children, or try to stop us and learn why humans have a reputation for being dangerous when cornered. There are 12 of us and 2 of you, one of the Velthier said. Yes, Do-hyun replied. It hardly seems fair to you. It might have been funny if it wasn't so serious. But something in the way the 2 humans stood, something in their eyes made the Velthier hesitate. Humans were new to the galaxy. The Velthier didn't know much about human combat capabilities, but they were learning. A new voice echoed through the corridor. Stand down, all of you. Counselor Ven appeared, accompanied by a group of Rillian delegates. This has gone far enough. As representatives of the Coalition Diplomatic Corps, we are taking custody of this situation. You have no authority here, Thexler protested. I have the authority granted to me by 3,000 years of coalition law, Ven replied coldly, and I've just finished reviewing every detail of your research. You violated protocol in at least 40 different ways. The children were taken without proper consent procedures. They were subjected to tests that exceeded authorized stress levels. You falsified reports to hide the extent of your experimentation. This entire project is illegal. The High Council approved it. A subcommittee approved it based on falsified information. The full council knew nothing about the details, but they will know now. I've transmitted my full report to every council member. I've also transmitted Dr. Park's biological scans, showing the psychological damage you've inflicted on these children. By tomorrow, you'll be arrested and your research credentials will be revoked. Thexler's multiple eyes widened. You can't do this. The Velthir will protest. We'll file complaints. You'll do nothing, Ven said, because if you try, I'll make sure the entire galaxy sees exactly what you did. Every test, every moment of suffering, every tear these children cried. Let's see how the council reacts when their own constituents see them approving experiments on helpless young ones. The Velthir security forces lowered their weapons. They were loyal, but they weren't stupid. This situation had escalated beyond their authority to handle. Jiwoo stepped forward. Counselor Ven, thank you for your intervention. We're taking the children now. Of course, I'll personally oversee their release. Ven walked to the control panel and began pressing buttons. The transparent cell walls became opaque, then slid open. For a moment, none of the children moved. They'd been trapped for so long that freedom seemed impossible. Then Hana stepped out. She walked straight to Jiwoo and hugged him. She was crying. You came back. You really came back, I promised, didn't I? Jiwoo knelt down to her level. We're going home, sweetheart. All of you. Today. The other children emerged from their cells. Some ran to Minji. Others clung to Do-Yun. Little June, who was only 6, just stood in the corridor looking lost. Minji scooped him up and held him. It's okay now. You're safe. You're going home to your family. My mommy? June whispered. Yes, your mommy. And your daddy. They've been looking for you every single day. They never stopped looking. A transmission came through on Jiwoo's communicator. Captain Han, this is Commander Sora. Status? We have the children, Commander. All 12. They're safe. There was a pause. When Sora spoke again, her voice was thick with emotion. Outstanding work, Captain. Bring them to the Sol. We're going home. But Director Quarren wasn't finished. He appeared in the corridor, surrounded by station security. You can't just take them. The Coalition has procedures. There must be a proper tribunal. Documents must be filed. This must go through the bureaucracy. Jiwoo looked at the dozen children clinging to him, Minji and Do-Hyun. He looked at their faces. Faces that had seen too much fear. Faces that were just beginning to hope again. Then he looked at Quarren. No, he said simply. You're violating Coalition law. Then arrest me. Put me on trial. Throw me in prison. I don't care. Jiwoo picked up Hana, who wrapped her arms around his neck. But these children are leaving this station right now. If you want to stop me, you'll have to go through me. And if you try, you'll find out what it means when a human protects their young. Do-Hyun raised his weapon, not pointing it at anyone, but making his intent clear. Minji positioned herself in front of the younger children. Quarren looked at them. He looked at the armed humans behind them. He looked at the 47 warships visible through the viewports. He was a bureaucrat, not a warrior. He made the only sensible decision. Go, he said quietly. Take them and go before more warships arrive. Smart choice, Jiwoo said. He touched his communicator. Commander Sora, we're bringing the children to you now. Have medical teams ready? They walked through the station corridors, a strange parade. 2 human soldiers, 1 human scientist, 12 human children. The children were safe aboard the Sol, but the crisis wasn't over. 20 minutes after the rescue, Coalition warships began appearing. First 10, then 30, then 50. They formed a blockade around Earth's 3rd Fleet. The largest Coalition ship, a massive vessel called the Justice of Stars, positioned itself directly in front of Sora's flagship. Ambassador Yoon Jae-min arrived on the Sol via shuttle. He looked exhausted and frightened. Jiwoo met him in the corridor outside the medical bay where the children were being treated. Captain Han, do you understand what you've done? Yoon asked. His voice was shaking. You've created an interstellar incident. The Coalition is demanding the children be returned for proper legal processing. They're threatening military action. Let them threaten, Jiwoo said. You don't understand. Earth has one fleet in this sector. The Coalition has hundreds. If they attack, we'll be destroyed. And Earth itself could face retaliation. Orbital bombardment, blockades. Our entire planet could suffer because of this. Then the Coalition will learn what happens when you threaten human children, a new voice said. Commander Sora stepped out of the medical bay. Ambassador, I've heard your concerns. Now hear mine. Those children were tortured, psychologically destroyed, turned into laboratory experiments. And the Coalition approved it. They knew about it and they allowed it. You want me to hand those kids back to the people who hurt them? I want you to follow proper procedures, Yoon said desperately. We can file complaints. Request a tribunal. Go through legal channels. We tried legal channels. Earth filed complaints for months. We were ignored. Sometimes, Ambassador, the law fails. When it does, you have two choices. Accept the failure or make your own justice. That's not how civilization works. Maybe it should be, Sora replied. She walked to a viewport. The Coalition fleet was visible outside, weapons charging. You see those ships? They're here to intimidate us, to make us back down, to teach humanity that we're small and powerless and we should accept whatever scraps the galaxy throws us. But I've got news for the Coalition. We're done accepting scraps. An incoming transmission interrupted them. The view screen activated, showing an alien that looked like a floating jellyfish with too many tentacles. This was High Counselor Vrix, one of the most powerful beings in the Coalition. Commander Sora, I am here to negotiate the peaceful resolution of this crisis, Vrix said. His voice burbled like water. Return the human children to Coalition custody for proper legal review. Your fleet will be allowed to leave without charges. This incident will be recorded as a misunderstanding. No, Sora said. You refuse? Do you see the ships around you? 140 vessels. We have more firepower in this sector than your entire species possesses. You cannot win a military confrontation. You're probably right, Sora agreed. But let me ask you something, High Counselor. How many of your ships are you willing to lose to get 12 children back? Vrix's tentacles writhed. You would fire on Coalition vessels? That would be an act of war. You imprisoned our children. You experimented on them. You tortured them. That was already an act of war. We're just deciding how to respond. Commander, be reasonable. The researchers involved will be disciplined. Reforms will be made. But you cannot simply take Coalition property without property. Sora's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Did you just call those children property? A poor choice of words. I meant subjects of legal jurisdiction. They're children, human children. Under Earth law, they're citizens with full rights. And one of those rights is protection from being turned into laboratory rats. Another voice joined the transmission. It was Thexlar calling from the station. High Counselor Vrix, you must recover the subjects. They represent years of research data. The children themselves have been conditioned and studied. They're valuable scientific assets that cannot be replaced. Sora's face went deadly calm. Captain Han, was that the lead researcher speaking? Yes, Commander. That's Thexlar. And he just called the children assets that cannot be replaced. Make sure that statement is recorded and broadcast on all channels. Already done. Commander. Sora turned back to the view screen. High Counselor, did you hear that? Your researcher just made it very clear what he thinks those children are. Things, objects, assets. Is that the Coalition's official position? Of course not. Thexlar spoke out of turn. He doesn't represent, he represents exactly what the Coalition has become, Sora interrupted. An empire so large and bureaucratic that it forgot what matters. You've forgotten that every one of those children has a name, a family, dreams, fears. You've forgotten their people. We haven't forgotten anything. We simply prioritize different values than— Stop talking, Sora commanded. The High Counselor actually stopped, shocked by her tone. Here's what's going to happen. We're leaving. We're taking the children back to Earth. If your ships try to stop us, we'll fight our way through. Maybe we'll lose. Probably we'll lose. But I promise you this. Before we go down, we'll take as many of your ships with us as we can, and the entire galaxy will know why we fought. They'll know you started a war to get back 12 children you were torturing. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? Minji's voice came from behind Sora. She stepped into view of the camera carrying little June. The 6-year-old was asleep in her arms, exhausted. What do you call taking children from their families without permission? What do you call psychological stress tests on kids too young to understand what's happening? What do you call isolating them and frightening them and recording their suffering for data? She shifted June gently. This little boy hasn't slept through the night since he was taken. He has nightmares. He wakes up screaming for his mother. He's 6 years old. What kind of civilization does this to a 6-year-old? Frix's tentacles moved in what might have been discomfort. Mistakes were made, but escalating to military conflict serves no one. You're wrong, Jiwoo said, stepping into view. It serves those 12 children. It serves every human parent who needs to know their government will protect their kids. It serves humanity's place in this galaxy, because right now, we're showing every species out there what happens when you cross certain lines. You're threatening the entire coalition over 12 individuals? Yes, Sora said simply. Because if we won't fight for 12 children, how can we claim to be worth anything? What's the point of civilization if we won't protect the most vulnerable among us? The transmission paused. Vrix was clearly consulting with advisors. After a long minute, he returned. Commander Sora, I'm authorized to offer a compromise. Keep the children. No charges will be filed against your crew, but Earth must pay a significant fine for violating coalition protocols, and you must agree to submit to a tribunal investigating your actions. No, Sora said. No, Commander, this is a generous offer. If I refuse, you'll attack, so attack. But understand something first. Sora's eyes were ice cold. Every human in this fleet has family back on Earth. Parents, children, siblings. We all know what those kids went through. We've seen their medical reports. We've heard their stories. So if you attack us, you won't be fighting soldiers following orders. You'll be fighting parents defending children. Every single one of us is willing to die to get these kids home safely. Are your crews willing to die to stop us? There was another long pause. Through the viewport, Jiwoo could see the coalition ships. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were up. But they weren't attacking. They were waiting. Inside the Soul's medical bay, the children were listening to everything through the open door. Hana stood up from her medical bed and walked to the doorway. She looked so small in the oversized medical gown, but her voice was strong. High Counselor Vrix, my name is Lee Hana, I'm 9 years old. The Velther took me from my home 234 days ago. They put me in a cage. They ran tests on me. They made me scared and lonely. They watched me cry and recorded it for their data. Do you know what they told me when I asked to see my parents? They said family bonds were part of what they were studying. That my sadness was valuable information. Her voice cracked, but she continued. I'm not valuable information. I'm a person. We're all people. And if you try to take us back, I'll fight. We'll all fight, because Earth taught us we're worth fighting for. The other children appeared behind Hana. Some were crying. Some looked angry. All looked determined. They stood together. These 12 kids who had survived hell. Vrix stared at them through the view screen. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the High Counselor's tentacles drooped. The Coalition fleet will stand down. You may leave, but this isn't over, Commander Sora. There will be consequences. Bring them, Sora replied. Earth isn't afraid anymore. The transmission ended. The Coalition ships began powering down their weapons. Slowly, the blockade opened. A path appeared through the warships leading to open space and the route back to Earth. All ships prepare for departure, Sora ordered. We're going home. Jiwoo felt something release in his chest. They'd done it. They'd faced down the entire Galactic Coalition and won, not through superior firepower but through sheer determination, through the simple declaration that some things were worth fighting for. Hana tugged on his sleeve. 3 weeks later, Jiwoo stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Coalition headquarters on the planet Centralis. The room was massive, designed to hold representatives from thousands of species. Today it was packed. Every seat was filled. Cameras from hundreds of news agencies recorded everything. The whole galaxy was watching. Earth's delegation sat at a table in the center of the room. Commander Sora was there along with Jiwoo, Minji, and Ambassador Yoon. Behind them sat the families of the 12 children. Cho Junho, Hana's father, held his daughter's hand. She'd refused to stay on Earth. She wanted to see this. Across from them sat the Coalition's prosecution team, led by a severe-looking alien named Prosecutor Ven. Not to be confused with Counselor Ven, the Rillian who had helped them. This was a different being entirely, one who believed absolutely in Coalition law. High Counselor Vrix floated at the center of the chamber. His tentacles moved in slow patterns. This tribunal has been convened to address the incident at Station Epsilon 7. Earth's forces are charged with unlawful military action, violation of coalition space, and theft of research subjects. Research subjects? Sora's voice cut through the hall like a blade. You mean children. Human children who were kidnapped. Order, Vrix commanded. You will have time to present your defense. First, we will hear the charges. He gestured to Prosecutor Venn. Proceed. Prosecutor Venn stood. The facts are simple. Earth's Third Fleet surrounded a coalition facility. They threatened military action. They removed 12 individuals who were legally detained under coalition research protocols. They defied the direct orders of coalition military forces. These actions constitute acts of war. We recommend Earth be expelled from the coalition and face economic sanctions. That's one way to describe what happened, Ambassador Yoon said. He stood looking older but somehow stronger than he had 3 weeks ago. Here's another way. The coalition authorized a research program that kidnapped children from their families. These children were subjected to psychological torture for months. Earth filed complaints through proper channels. We were ignored. We requested investigations. We were denied. We asked for help. We received none, so we saved our children ourselves. The research was legally authorized, Prosecutor Venn argued. Legally authorized by a subcommittee that never reviewed the full details. Counselor Venn's voice came from the audience. The Rillian stood up. I conducted a full investigation. The research proposal claimed they would study adult volunteers. The reality was kidnapped children. That's called fraud. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species hadn't known these details. Furthermore, Counselor Venn continued, I've discovered this wasn't an isolated incident. Over the past decade, the Velthir have conducted similar research on 7 other species. Young members of those species. Children. The coalition has been approving these programs without proper oversight. The murmurs became shouts. Representatives from dozens of species were on their feet. Some were demanding answers. Others were checking records to see if their own species had been affected. High Counselor Vrix slammed a tentacle against his podium. The sound echoed like thunder. Order! This tribunal is not about past programs. It's about Earth's military actions. They're completely connected, Ambassador Yoon said. You can't separate them. Earth acted because the coalition failed. You failed to protect children. You failed to investigate complaints. You failed to provide justice. So we provided it ourselves. You don't have the right to provide your own justice. Prosecutor Venn shouted. That's vigilante action. That's chaos. If every species decided to enforce their own laws, the coalition would collapse. Maybe it should, Sora said quietly, but her voice carried in the sudden silence. Maybe a government that tortures children doesn't deserve to exist. The chamber erupted. Some species were shouting agreement. Others were shouting protests. Ambassador Yoon held up his hands for silence. We're not calling for the coalition's destruction, he said. We're calling for reform, for accountability, for a system that actually protects the vulnerable instead of grinding them up for data. A new voice spoke. It was Ambassador No Sunwoo, Earth's newest representative. He was 48, a former military officer turned diplomat. He'd arrived on Centralis 2 days ago with a mission. High Counselor, if I may, I'd like to present testimony from the children themselves. That's highly irregular, Prosecutor Venn protested. So is kidnapping kids. No replied. Let them speak. Let the galaxy hear what was done to them. Vrix's tentacles twisted. Very well. But keep it brief, Hana stood up. She walked to the center of the chamber, looking impossibly small, surrounded by giant aliens and towering architecture. A floating platform lowered to her height so everyone could see her. My name is Lee Hana, she said. Her voice was small but clear. I'm 9 years old. 7 months ago, the Velthir came to my home. They told my parents they were doing a survey. They used a device that paralyzed me. I could see my mom and dad, but I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I watched them carry me away and I couldn't do anything. The chamber was absolutely silent now. They put me in a cell. It had a bed and a bathroom and nothing else. No books, no toys. No family, just walls. Every day they'd take me to a testing room. Sometimes they'd make it very cold. Sometimes very hot. Sometimes they'd play scary sounds. They were measuring how long it took before I got frightened. How long before I cried. How long before I gave up hope. Her voice cracked. Tears ran down her face, but she kept talking. The worst part wasn't the tests. It was the loneliness. I'd beg them to let me see my parents. They'd say no. I'd ask when I could go home. They'd say never. One of the researchers told me I was too valuable, that I'd probably spend the rest of my life being studied. I was 8 years old and they told me I'd never be free. She looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some of you have children. Imagine if someone did this to your kids. Imagine them alone and scared, crying themselves to sleep every night, wondering if anyone was coming to save them. That's what the coalition approved. That's what was legal under your laws. Another child stood up. It was Kim Jun, the youngest at 6 years old. He walked to stand beside Hana. He didn't say anything. He just held up a drawing he'd made. It showed a stick-figure child in a cage with tears falling from its eyes. Then another child stood. And another. All 12 children came forward. They stood together, silent testimony to what they'd survived. Prosecutor Ven tried to speak, but no words came out. How could anyone argue against those faces? An alien in the audience stood up. She looked like a bird with 4 wings and golden feathers. I am Representative Kira of the Avarian people. We have young ones, too. If I learned this had been done to our children, I would burn worlds to get them back. I vote to dismiss all charges against Earth. Another alien stood. I am Delegate Thurn of the Obsidian Collective. Our species values law and order above all things. But there are laws higher than what we write in books. The law of protecting children is written in the heart. I vote to dismiss all charges. One by one, representatives stood. Species after species voted to dismiss the charges. Not all of them. Some still believed Earth had violated coalition sovereignty, but the majority saw the truth. The coalition had failed. Earth had acted. And they'd been right to act. High Counselor Vrix watched his authority crumble. Finally, his tentacles drooped in defeat. The charges are dismissed. But this is not the end. The coalition must reform. We must create new protections. Never again can this happen. Then we want to be part of creating those protections, Ambassador No said. Earth proposes the creation of new laws. Universal protections for the young of all species. Clear definitions of what constitutes acceptable research. Mandatory oversight for any program involving juveniles. And most importantly, swift punishment for anyone who violates these rules. That would require rewriting centuries of law, Vrix protested weakly. Then start writing, Sora said. Because Earth isn't the only species that will fight to protect their kids. You've seen what we did with one fleet. Imagine if a dozen species decided you'd crossed the line. Imagine if 100 did. Your coalition would burn and you'd deserve it. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Change your laws or species will change them for you. With force if necessary. The chamber fell silent again. Then Counselor Ven stood. High Counselor, I formally second Earth's proposal. The Rillian people support creating these new protections. We call them the Hana Protocols, named after the brave girl who spoke here today. Hana looked surprised. You're naming laws after me? You survived, Counselor Ven said gently. You endured. You spoke truth to power. That's worth commemorating. Other species began voicing support. The tide was turning. What had started as Earth on trial was becoming a galaxy-wide demand for reform. Vrix realized he'd lost control of the situation. Very well. The coalition will form a committee to draft new protections for juveniles across all member species. Earth will have representation on this committee, but in return, Earth must agree to work within coalition structures going forward. We will, Ambassador No said, as long as those structures actually work. As long as they protect people instead of protecting bureaucracy. Agreed. Vrix looked tired. This tribunal is adjourned.